Welcome to the eBusiness Playbook podcast, proudly sponsored by Ocademy Global, where we help you go from theory to reality, empowering you to elevate your e-business. Join our open community at the eBusiness Playbook by Ocademy on Facebook and LinkedIn, and check out our training packages at ocademyglobal.com to find out more.
Welcome to the eBusiness Playbook. Okay, so if you're running a business today, you know the story all too well. Digital projects, right? That new website you need, integrating that critical piece of software. I mean, you have to do it to stay competitive.
It's table stakes now.
Exactly. But here's the part that keeps people up at night. The cost. Scope creep is, frankly, terrifying. You start with a perfectly reasonable budget and suddenly, somehow, it's doubled or tripled, all because of maybe one or two seemingly small changes you didn't, manage properly.
And that anxiety, it's completely understandable. Budget blowouts, missed deadlines. Look, these aren't just little administrative hiccups. They're often symptoms of systemic failures that start way back in the planning.
Right.
So our goal here in this deep dive is to give you a shortcut past that pain. We've dug into a really comprehensive guide on digital project management, and we've basically boiled it down into a practical playbook, something you can actually use.
Yeah, we're cutting through the jargon today. We want to give you the actual systems, the what and the how, so you can stay competitive, keep that budget under control, and, finally get projects delivered that actually do what they were supposed to do.
Precisely. And this isn't just theory. We're going to focus on those core phases: planning, execution, control. But think of them as, like, protective shields. Shields against the chaos that, let's be honest, often comes with any big digital project. Success really hinges on mastering these systems, protecting your boundaries right from day one.
Okay, let's dive into that foundation then, the strategy phase. Meticulous planning. The source material is really clear on this first step. It's arguably the most critical one.
Absolutely.
If you rush this part, defining the scope, the budget, the timeline, well, everything that comes after is just guaranteed to be harder and probably way more expensive.
That's it. And a common mistake, especially for business owners, is confusing a wish list with a real blueprint. You need a comprehensive project plan.
More than just a list of tasks.
Oh, much more. The real value is setting out the logical sequence of those tasks, understanding the dependencies, what has to happen before something else can start, mapping out resources. It's all about preventing that confusion and mismanagement that creeps in months later.
And the goals themselves, right? They can't just be vague hopes. We see it all the time. Projects go completely off the rails because the goal was something fuzzy like modernize our customer portal.
And think about the immediate consequence of that vagueness for you, the business owner. A goal like modernize the portal. Well, it's basically a blank check for your development team.
Right. There's no finish line.
Exactly. No defined specific endpoint. That's precisely why we need SMART objectives: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Using that framework forces you to define things properly. So not just that you'll launch a new feature, but maybe how many users need to successfully complete a transaction on that new portal within the first quarter for you to call it a success. It makes it concrete.
And that ties planning directly into finance, doesn't it? Budget tracking isn't something you just do afterwards. Our sources really emphasize that detailed planning is the core activity that sets your initial scope and your budget.
Crucially, yes. And that planning has to ensure everything aligns with the broader organizational needs, what the business actually needs to achieve. And because things change so fast these days, you've got to be ready to revisit those initial estimates regularly. It's not just about spotting an overrun. The real failure is realizing 6 months in that you're building the wrong thing entirely because the company strategy shifted and your project didn't.
Oof, yeah, that's painful. And we can't forget the people involved, the stakeholders. You've got clients, your own staff, maybe partners who are all impacted by this new tech. Why is keeping that dialogue going with all these different groups so important, especially early on?
Because it manages expectations. And it builds political capital, frankly. You need that transparency. The project has to meet their actual needs, their functional requirements, not just tick boxes on a technical spec sheet you wrote ages ago.
Makes sense.
So regular communication about progress, any roadblocks, potential trade-offs. It ensures that when problems do come up, and they will enter it, you have their trust and collaboration, not their skepticism or, worse, resistance.
Okay, so we've got a solid plan. Now, the next step, according to the sources, is building that safety net. Proactive protection. Risk management.
Hmm.
This isn't just, reacting when the server crashes. It's about spotting potential problems early to stop small issues turning into massive budget-killing nightmares.
This is where you sort of financially immunize the project. You absolutely have to identify potential hurdles before they knock you off course. And that starts with creating a comprehensive risk register.
A risk register. Okay, what is
Yeah.
that exactly?
It's basically a central document. It lists every single risk you and your team can identify. But it's not just the risk. It's also its likelihood, how probable is it? And crucially, what's its potential financial impact if it does happen? You need to quantify it.
So that means getting everyone in a room, developers, sales, finance, whoever, and kind of forcing them to play the what-if game.
Exactly that. You push them to put numbers on specific risks.
Yeah.
So IT might flag the risk of a key third-party vendor going bust mid-project. Finance might assess the risk of cloud service costs suddenly shooting up.
Right.
Then you prioritize. Which risks have the biggest potential financial downside? Those are the ones you focus on first.
Okay, I get the theory. But as the business owner, convincing my CFO to spend, say, an extra 10% on mitigating risk now, how do I make that case? How do I show it saves maybe 50% later?
You show them the potential costs of those known unknowns, and you show them your plan to tackle them using the standard strategies. You can try to avoid the risk, reduce its likelihood or impact, transfer it, or simply accept it.
Transferring, like insurance. Sometimes. But often, transferring risk might mean strategically outsourcing one particularly complex bit you don't have the in-house expertise for, like maybe secure payment gateway integration. You transfer that specific technical risk to a specialist who deals with it day in, day out.
Got it. Now, here's something the source material really sounds the alarm on. Contingency planning. What's the absolute must-have mechanism we need in the budget?
Okay, this is critical. You must include a dedicated contingency budget. It's a financial buffer, maybe, say, 10 to 15% of the total project budget. And it's reserved only for unforeseen expenses, genuine surprises.
Right.
This buffer is what stops those unexpected challenges, which, let's face it, always happen, from completely wrecking your project's financial health.
And the tricky part there, I imagine, is actually protecting that money, that buffer just sitting there.
Mhm.
It must be tempting for the finance team to grab it if the project seems to be going smoothly for a few months. That's where the discipline comes in, real project governance. It's probably the hardest part, protecting that buffer. If you dip into that contingency for anything other than a genuine unforeseen risk that you documented, well, you've just instantly turned an unexpected bump into a potential financial crisis you can't easily recover from.
So that proactive monitoring, constantly reassessing risks, that's key to keeping costs down.
It's the heart of it. An agile approach to risk, constantly watching, constantly adjusting.
Okay, plan set, safety net deployed, now we execute. And this needs rigorous monitoring too. How do we keep the team actually moving forward and make sure we deliver what we promised back in that plan?
Right, execution. It's all about driving forward momentum. Obviously, you need tools. Good task management software helps track deliverables, estimated times, who's doing what.
Sure.
But the tool itself is kind of useless without clear collaboration. That means having a structured workflow, maybe setting up clear assignment hierarchies in your project software, and really importantly, constant communication.
This is where things like daily stand-up meetings come in,
Yeah.
right? That quick 5-minute check-in where everyone shares what they did yesterday, what they're doing today, and crucially, any obstacles. Why is sharing those obstacles so vital?
Because it forces immediate collective problem solving. It brings roadblocks out into the open instantly. If someone's stuck, it's not some secret they try to hide until a deadline blows past. It becomes a shared issue, something the team or management can jump on and resolve within hours, not weeks down the line. It keeps things moving.
And all this monitoring, it ties into continuous feedback and iteration, what people often call the agile way. What does that sort of iterative development actually mean in practice for a business owner watching the budget?
It basically means you deliver working software, or whatever the project output is, in small, manageable chunks, frequently, maybe every 2 weeks. Instead of waiting a whole year for one big ta-da reveal, this lets you get frequent reviews and make adjustments based on actual user feedback or stakeholder feedback, which massively reduces the risk of spending a year building something nobody really wants or can use effectively.
And a critical part of that agile cycle, the sources say, are the agile retrospectives. What makes them so powerful for efficiency in the long run?
Retrospectives. Their power lies in how they systematize improvement almost instantly. At the end of each short cycle, each sprint, the team stops and reflects on the process itself. What went well? What slowed us down? Where did we stumble?
Right.
And the magic is you take a small failure from that sprint, maybe a missed deadline, a requirement that wasn't clear, and you immediately turn it into a concrete, defined change for the next sprint. It's like constantly tuning your internal development engine. Processes just get better and more efficient with every single cycle.
Okay, now I get to the really big one. The critical controversy, as the sources put it, scope creep.
The project killer.
Exactly. That death by 1,000 cuts. That unexpected brilliant idea, that seemingly small request that just slowly, steadily bloats the timeline and the budget until the project is barely recognizable financially. We need a system for this.
We absolutely do. This is, hands down, the #1 reason projects fail. And tackling it requires institutional control. That means implementing a really rigorous change control system with proper governance wrapped around it from day one.
What does that system need to actually contain to be effective, to give the business owner real control?
Well, the core mechanism is documentation. It needs to track every proposed change, whether it gets approved or rejected.
Right.
That keeps everyone, the tech team, the finance guys, the stakeholders, completely aware of the exact current scope of the project at all times.
Okay, documentation. But you mentioned governance. That sounds like the real shield.
It is. The governance piece is how the system helps the project manager, or you as the business owner, finally say no. Or at least not yet, even when it's a major client or a senior executive demanding some last-minute feature.
How does that work in practice?
That's the job of the Change Control Board, or CCB, or whatever you decide to call it. It's a dedicated group, a governance body, that meets regularly to assess every single change request that comes in.
Okay.
They don't just look at the idea, they evaluate its impact. What will this do to the budget, to the timeline? How does it affect the overall project goals we agreed on? It forces a rational discussion.
So it takes the pressure off one individual having to reject, say, the CEO's pet idea.
Precisely. Political courage gets institutionalized. If adding that shiny new feature adds $20,000 and pushes the deadline back 2 weeks, the CCB makes that call collectively based on the facts and the agreed priorities. It protects the project and the project manager. It enforces discipline.
Okay, that makes sense. We've built the structure for control. Now let's quickly touch on methods. Are there specific frameworks that help maximize efficiency, especially for the business owner footing the bill?
Yeah, definitely. We should look at lean methodology. The core idea behind lean thinking is all about maximizing efficiency by aggressively reducing waste in all your operations.
Reducing waste in a software project. How does that work?
Well, waste in software can mean building features nobody uses, having overly complex processes, delays, waiting times. Lean focuses on eliminating all that. For the business owner, the key takeaway is often feature prioritization.
Okay.
This means really working closely with your stakeholders, maybe using techniques like Moscow analysis, must have, should have, could have. Won't have to force everyone to prioritize only the absolute essential features for launch.
Right. So your expensive development team focuses only on delivering the highest priority, highest value items within the budget you set. You avoid paying for bells and whistles that don't actually move the needle for the business.
Exactly. Stop building things people don't need or won't use. It's a huge source of waste.
And the source material also mentioned that sometimes, especially if requirements are a bit fuzzy or likely to change, mixing methods, a hybrid approach, can be beneficial.
Yes. That's increasingly common. If your requirements are a bit ambiguous at the start, you might use a more structured, detailed waterfall planning approach right at the beginning. Lock down the core architecture, the overall budget, the high-level scope.
Yeah.
Get that foundation solid. But then, for actually building out the features, you switch to an iterative, agile execution model. And this gives you that flexibility you need to navigate the ambiguities and respond to feedback, but without losing the overall structural control you established up front. Best of both worlds, sometimes.
Okay. And to make all these concepts less abstract, looking at history helps.
Yeah.
Case studies. The sources mention the Sydney Opera House project as a famous, or maybe infamous, example.
But it's the ultimate cautionary tale, isn't it?
Right.
But also, interestingly, a lesson in resilience and adaptation. That project, I mean, the numbers are staggering. It ended up costing something like 14 times the original budget and was 10 years late. The initial planning was, frankly, a disaster.
Yeah.
But its eventual success, becoming this global icon, hinged on incredible political resilience and, crucially, a willingness to basically stop, throw out the flawed plans, and fundamentally restart the architectural planning midstream.
So the lesson isn't just plan better.
Not entirely. It also shows that sometimes adaptability, having robust change management, and sheer persistence are actually more important than just blindly sticking to an initial plan that's clearly broken.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to pivot, even if it's painful.
This has been a really comprehensive deep dive. Let's try and bring it all back to the business owner listening right now. Success seems to boil down to putting a few core protective mechanisms in place.
That's a good way to put it. It really does. You absolutely have to use smart planning to set clear goals and boundaries right at the start. Define what success looks like measurably.
Okay.
Second, you must protect the project's financial health with that non-negotiable contingency budget. That safety net is vital.
And finally, you have to fight scope creep relentlessly by enforcing a rigorous change control system, complete with a proper governing body like a CCB. Get those three things right, and you're in a much, much stronger position.
So here's the final thought we want to leave you with. Thinking about effective project management. It isn't just about getting this project over the line on time and on budget. It's also about making sure your delivery engine, your processes, your team gets better for the next project and the one after that.
Yeah, absolutely. If we connect this to the bigger picture, remember those agile retrospectives we talked about?
Yeah.
And the continuous monitoring of how long things actually took versus the estimate or how the budget tracking went, all that data, all those lessons learned, they shouldn't just vanish when the project ends. You should be feeding that back into your processes. Use it to refine how you estimate things next time, how you structure your teams, how you manage risks. It's about continuous improvement of the system itself.
So the question you should probably ask yourself today is, what systems are you putting in place right now, based on your last project, to make sure your next budget estimate is significantly more accurate than your last one?
A great question to ponder. Thank you for sharing your source material with us for this deep dive.
For the complete PDF with all the insights from this episode, head over to academyglobal.com. There, you'll find the PDF, plus other valuable podcasts and resources to fuel your business growth and career success. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.